Hello, my name is Austin. I'm from New York. I am autistic, ADHD. Uh, there's a bunch of other ones, but those are the main two. Um, I shouldn't say like a bunch, like five other things. I'm an artist, writer, guy. I'm working on making films, stuff like that. Continuing to make as much as I can, you know. I worked in television from 2019 to 2022, roughly. That was like roughly when my last gig was. And I went back to school because, I worked on stuff like NBC and, the Bleacher Report, Federator Studios. I wasn't really closer to my dream of working in animation, so I basically was just like, okay, rather than wait for someone to give me the chance, I'll just develop the skills to make some stuff on my own. And so I've been back in school 2022 to 2023, and I just started my next leg of 2 years. And um, I didn't know that I was a highly masked autistic guy until, well, I struggled with certain things all of my life, right? And I had things that other people didn't have. Like I had like an IEP, like someone kind of helping me learn stuff in elementary school, like aids and stuff like that, but I didn't know why. It wasn't really explained to me. I wasn't really able to focus on myself back then as well. I it was only really until I was back in school in the fine arts program and I was like struggling with things that nobody else was struggling with. And so I was like, well, that's weird. Why is that happening? And so I basically went to go get evaluated for ADHD. It was like this EEG type thing where they scanned my brain. That's why I remember in my head. They're like, yeah, you've got ADHD and autism and OCD and anxiety, depression, insomnia, and we can see that all on this way they scanned my brain. And I was like, oh, well, that's a lot. And then there was a lot of conflicting advice. It was like, oh, take that with like a grain of salt. Those things are sort of like fickle. Just talk with your care team, stuff like that. It wasn't really until I talked with my mom that it was sort of revealed that I was assessed for autism when I was very very young, like like 2 or 3. So like this was the '90s as well. So it's like this was just kind of buried for whatever reason. So 2024, right when I was turning 30 was when I started really accepting the fact that I was autistic and highly masked. And, that's kind of why I'm here. I found out about highly masked autism and it just kind of made a lot of things make sense. I'm still kind of figuring out what masking is for me. I know that if I like my biggest struggle is burnout, and if I'm burning out, I'm kind of going through something like that right now. I'm taking this class that's very intensive and not necessarily like directly what I want to do, but I have to do it to sort of get to the stuff that I really want to do, and it's very very demanding, right? Because it's like I'm taking it in the winter session, so it's like day after day after day after day. There's no breaks, and I'm living with my brother, so it's sort of like there's a lot of pressure to kind of keep moving and going and not taking any space for myself and sort of struggling through it and pretending that I'm fine. But I kind of have to fight and argue to make sure I get downtime and with myself as well. But my mask in particular, I noticed that when I'm trying to make everybody laugh a lot and I'm trying to kind of push myself socially and not in a way that's natural, right? Because it's one thing to talk to people because you want to talk to people and you have sort of the energy to do it. It's another thing to sort of be like, ah, yeah, like, wow, Cool. Crazy. I don't know what that was. But, I just think that my own mask, it's kind of ignoring the discomfort in myself, basically, and kind of just going along with things that I'm not actually comfortable doing. And rather than going like really fast and erratic, that's part of it too, because all my whole family's neurodivergent. Everybody's like, go, go, go. The more I slow down, the more I take my time with things and realize, hey, this can get done later, or even just like it doesn't have to be done immediately right this moment, and just sort of willingly take that time is when I'm unmasked, and the opposite is true if I don't do that. But masking is very new to me, and I'm learning a lot about it still. I haven't been able to develop my next step of healthcare just because I don't have any insurance or anything. But focusing on my masking will be my next step. So being unmasked, um, it feels like you kind of have to. You don't have to uh, go with everybody's rhythm. It's just kind of like following your own rhythm and how you actually feel about things. Because I've sort of entertained a lot of my life, right? Like just kind of made sure that other people were happy with me, so that I can sort of be accepted and acknowledged and all that. But the less I do that, the more it's just sort of like, oh, okay, cool. It's just like energy is kind of how autism affects me the most. Outside of like the personality quirks, it's just sort of like some days I can take on the world, right? And like I can do a lot of things and I'm very capable and it's like bing 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 bang boom. I just knock it all out. Especially when I have that mix of ADHD with the autism. The ADHD is like sort of like the sparkled chaos and it's like association, association, association. Like I call it like jazz because it's like bing bang boom boom ba ba ba. It's just like everything happens very quickly. Whereas autism, it's very much like I provide the structure for what that looks like afterwards, like what the chaos actually means, I guess. And it also is the thing that kind of holds me back, like a little bit, like not holds me back in that there's a version of me that isn't acceptable because that's part of the mask too. But it's sort of like the part of me just kind of reins me in a bit. It's like, hey man, if you don't stop, you're gonna basically be crashed out in bed all day tomorrow, and it's gonna be your fault. It's a hard balance to handle because those are two paradoxical things, and it kind of doesn't matter sometimes how hard I try. Like today, for example, I didn't do that much, and it wasn't because that I didn't want to. And in fact, I do want to do things. It's just my body was like, "Hey, cost time, pay up." I was like, "Oh no," I just gotta lay in bed with like my 5 blankets and just relax. Being unmasked is like actually being in that space where you can actually like listen to yourself appropriately and there's no sort of extraneous pressures. You should just kind of like listen and follow your energy as it comes. That's very hard in an erratic life, but do what you can. I would tell a younger me, man, cause like this is something I'm really thinking about as well because you make a lot of mistakes and you kind of like crash through things. Not only because you don't understand social cues as well as other people, right? Like sort of like the norms, but also just like you don't know who you are and you're trying to figure it out. So you're like just kind of throwing yourself into situations and you hurt a lot of people and you make a lot of mistakes. Um, I would just tell younger me to slow down. That you don't have to figure it all right away. And the time passes anyway, right? It's just you can learn the things you want to learn that sort of feel out of your reach while also listening to yourself and not compromising who you are, because younger me went through a lot of things that he didn't shouldn't have gone through, right? Like that's very much a common saying. But I wish I could have. taken my time and just kind of made life something that's comfortable for myself while I was trying to figure out how to do those things. I accomplished a lot of things that I'm not, um, I don't regret in any sort of way. But that doesn't really change the fact that I could have been kinder to myself and accepted myself for who I was. And, a lot of stuff isn't your fault. So, yeah, that's what I would tell younger me. Masking is, I've kind of even been told by some friends that it's kind of bullshit. And, it's like, oh, you're capable before. Why now all of a sudden you learn, like you get this label and you start acting differently? Like, what's the deal with that? I wish that people just kind of trusted other people enough with their own experiences because there's this trend that sort of happens with not just in neurodiverse spaces, right? But like just sort of like collectively. We like to tell people who talk about their experiences, they're like, hey, like this is what's going on with me. This is what I struggle with. If it doesn't fit like the conventional norm, it's like, no, that's bad. Stop doing that. And with masking, right, there were a lot of conflicts, especially when I started like this year, like really, I'm not this year, last year, because it still feels like 2024. It's 2025 now. Uh, there was a lot of fighting last year because it's like, why are you asking for time to relax before you do something? Why do you need downtime? You're supposed like you were capable of handling these things before. The thing was, is I didn't handle things well before. Um, I kind of went off on my own and tried to make it by myself in Los Angeles, working very, very hard to make it. And um, there were so many days that I was just in bed doing nothing and just kind of recuperating from something I didn't really understand at the time. And I really, really wish that people understood and saw that, right? But it's like there are things about other people that we will never see, right? It doesn't really matter how well you know someone. There's a version of you that they'll never meet, and masking is it's hard for people, especially if they were close to you before, right, to understand that that person wasn't necessarily. It's not like you were lying to them. It's just you have this coping mechanism that takes a lot from you, and you need to be able to take it off, just so you can actually be who you are.